All right, hey guys, it's time for an AR read aloud about Betsy Ross. This book is written and illustrated by Alexandra Wallner, and this story goes perfectly along with our social studies unit about the American Revolution. Now, I'm going to preface this story before I start reading it by telling you that there are several historians throughout time that have argued the authenticity or the trueness of this story. So, if you are one of the students who loves to do research to try to find the truth of something, I know there's a handful of you in our class. I would really encourage you to do your own research about Betsy Ross and come up with what you believe to be true in this story. Um, Most of the points are agreed upon and true. There's a few that historians argue. So, if you're curious to know more, I encourage you to do some research about that. All right, so that being said, let's get right into the story. Elizabeth Griscom was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania on January 1st, 1752. Elizabeth, called Betsy by her family, was the eighth child of 17 born to Samuel and Rebecca. Could you imagine having 16 brothers or sisters? It's a big house. Her family were Quakers, a religious group that believed in living in a simple, peaceful way. The family was so large that the children had to help with chores. Betsy helped by sewing the white caps Quaker girls wore every day. So you see a little inset of her here sewing the little hats that the Quaker girls wear for modesty to cover their hair. And there she is over here. They took this picture and sort of zoomed in. But if you look at this picture, it's kind of funny. Let me see if I can zoom in for you a little bit more. Hold on. There's a whole lot going on with the types of chores that you'd have to do in a Quaker family. For example, again, she's sewing the caps. This girl is bringing in the wood for the fire. He's churning butter. He's doing some sweeping or, scaring away chicken for that matter. And he's bringing in some harvest from outside, whether it's, from the garden or not. She looks like she's preparing some kind of food, like making a dough that she's rolling out. And he's studying here by candlelight, some books and some paper here. But this is the one that made me happiest. This little baby is having a fit and throwing food all over the floor, and older sister who has to feed her is just not having it anymore. she's just not enjoying her chore. Anyways, these pictures are very fun if you look at the details in all of them. All right, let's move on to the next page. So Betsy attended the Friends School with other Quakers and children from wealthy families. Besides learning reading, writing, arithmetic, which is math, geography, and history, students performed a 4-hour task each day. Betsy used this time to sew. She enjoyed creating quilts and samplers with complicated designs. Betsy's needlework was the most beautiful in Philadelphia, and she won many prizes for it. So, a little example of her needlework here with a first place ribbon, and example of her attending a local fair where they can exhibit their quilts and their needlework, and she's quite accomplished. It's very nice. When Betsy was a teenager, she begged her parents to let her work outside their home. Her parents agreed to let her work for an upholsterer, sewing the coverings for sofas, chairs, and other furniture. In the shop, she met a worker named John Ross, and they fell in love. Betsy married him in 1773, even though he wasn't a Quaker. The Quakers and her parents disapproved of her marrying someone outside of the Quaker faith. What we could tell is that she's kind of into cats, and cats into chasing mouse here. All right, next page. At this time, America was made up of only 13 colonies on the East Coast, ruled by King George III of England. The colonials did not like being under English rule. In 1775, their newly formed government, the Continental Congress, established an American army to fight the British. The first battles were fought in Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts on April 19, 1775, and marked the beginning of the Revolutionary War. Although Philadelphians knew about the fighting, business went on as usual. Betsy and John set up a small shop in 1775. They worked long hours to make their business succeed. So you can see the moon is out and the lights are on in their little business, and you can see the two of them inside, their silhouette, and they're still working into the long hours, working on their upholstery to cover up different furniture. So then John joined the army. One night in 1776, he was guarding a storehouse full of ammunition that exploded. For months, Betsy nursed him with herbs and home remedies. Despite her care, John died. Betsy was now a widow who ran her business alone in a shop on Arch Street. After work, she made musket balls to help the American cause, going against the Quakers' peaceful ways. So, good for her, I guess, even though it's against her religion, she wanted to support the soldiers by helping them to make munitions that they needed to make their guns work to go to war. All right, next page. General George Washington, the commander-in-chief of the army, wanted the colonials to have a flag. Not only would it be a symbol of the colonials' independence from England, it would also stand for the colonies fighting together. He sketched a design for a flag and showed it to his close friends Robert Morris and Colonel George Ross. Colonel Ross, who's John's uncle, suggested that Betsy sew the flag. The three men called on Betsy in her small shop. When General Washington showed her his sketch, Betsy looked at it and frowned. "Why not have a five-pointed star instead of a six-pointed one?" she said. "Five-pointed stars are easier to sew and they waste less cloth." The men looked doubtful, so she took a scrap of cloth, folded it, and with a snip of her scissors cut a five-pointed star. "And I think the flag should be shaped like a rectangle. It would look better waving in the wind than the square flag drawn by General Washington." The men were impressed by Betsy's design and agreed that it was better. So this is the design here, supposedly, that George Washington did, which is now thrown on the floor and the cat's having its way with it. And the truth of the story, what's interesting is that Betsy was able to cut a star with only one cut of her scissors. I'm going to say that again. She can make a five-pointed perfect star with only one cut of her scissors. And if you're interested to see how, I have a little video at the end of this to show you. All right, let's continue on with the story. Betsy took great care in making the first American flag. She sewed 13 stars shaped in a circle on a blue field. She placed it against 13 red and white stripes. And apparently what we know about Betsy Ross is she was a cat lady. Woo! Lots of kitties. All right, moving on. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was signed. The 13 colonies became the 13 United States of America. On June 14, 1777, Betsy's flag was described at a meeting of Congress and a resolution was passed. The minutes of the meeting read, "Resolved that the flag of the United States be 13 stripes, alternate red and white, and that the Union be 13 stars in a blue field representing a new constellation." During the war, Betsy became well known for her beautiful flags, but her reputation as an upholsterer grew as well. She got many important jobs. She worked for Benjamin Franklin, the Society of the Free Quakers, and the State House of Pennsylvania. In 1777, Betsy married Joseph Ashburn, a sea captain. Joseph was often away from home. During one of his voyages, British soldiers occupied Philadelphia for a few months. Many citizens left the city, but Betsy stayed to run her business, even though she was alone. Soldiers camped in her house. And you guys remember we talked about that, how Britain had passed a law saying that soldiers could live in the colonists' houses, and they had to do it. They were forced. So you can see in the picture there's some British soldiers that are being forced to live with Betsy, even though she's by herself, which is and her cats. She got 4 cats in this picture. Anyway, that was part of the rule. So the soldiers were allowed to live there, and she was forced to deal with it. So soldiers camped in her house, and she was polite to them, but she always let them know whose side she was on, which means, boys and girls, she was not on the British side. She was on the American side. The soldiers came to respect this lone, hard-working woman and called her the Little Rebel. During a sea battle with England, Joseph was taken prisoner. In 1782, when the war was over, Betsy learned from a friend named John Claypole that Joseph had died in an English prison. This is her second husband. Goodness, so she just lost her second husband. Meanwhile, Betsy and Joseph's first child, Zillah, had died, and their second child, Elizabeth, had been born. Now Betsy was a widow again. John Claypole and Betsy's friendship grew. In 1783, John became Betsy's third husband. They joined the Society of Free Quakers, which permitted marriage outside the faith. Betsy could worship in the church once again. Together, Betsy and John had 5 children: Clarissa, Susanna, Rachel, Jane, and Harriet, who died as a baby. Ooh, she's had a rough life, guys. Harriet the baby died when she was just a little one. Although John was a sea voyager, Betsy asked him to come and work in her flourishing upholstery shop. She needed his help. But John grew bored with the upholstery business and went to work for the U.S. Customs House. He became ill the last few years of his life. John died in 1817. Goodness. Betsy taught sewing to her daughters, her granddaughters, and her nieces. When they grew up, they helped her run the business. At age 75, Betsy finally retired. Her eyesight was failing, and one of her children read the Bible to her as she sat by the fire. Betsy liked to tell stories about her life. Her favorite story was the one about making the first American flag. Betsy died in 1836. The people who knew her told her story about the flag. Finally, in 1870, her grandson, William J. Canby, made Betsy's story public in an address to the Historical Society of Pennsylvania. Again, kitties everywhere. Betsy was buried on Arch Street in the garden of the house she once ran as an upholstery shop. The flag of the United States flies 24 hours a day over her grave. So I'm going to read the author's note to you as well, just so you can understand some of the things the historians say. This over here is, of course, a drawing, a painting of what her real house, looks like. And I used to teach first grade last year. When I taught first grade, I read the story of Betsy Ross to my students. And one of them ended up going on a trip to Philadelphia and begging his mom to take him to the Betsy Ross house. And they did. They were able to go, and they took photos and saw it. And it was just a neat experience. So I would really encourage any of you who are finding this very interesting and fascinating that you'll do a little research on your own based on what I'm about to read to you. So author's note, we know many facts about Betsy Ross's life, but there are also many conflicting stories. Some historians suggest that she won contests for her needlework. Others say she did not. Some historians do agree that British soldiers were quartered, which means they were living in Betsy's home in 1777. Although her grandniece, Susan Satterwaith Newport, reported that not only were they there, they also refer to her as a little rebel. Okay, so there's somebody who confirms that story. There is no absolute proof that Betsy Ross sewed the first American flag. The story of the flag, commissioned by George Washington, was passed down by Betsy's relatives and friends. However, George Washington, George Ross, and Robert Morris were in Philadelphia during the time that Betsy Ross said they came to her house. In 1963, Reeves Wetherill, a descendant of one of Betsy Ross's colonial friends, Sam Wetherill, presented a little paper star with the signature of Clarissa Claypool Wilson at a luncheon of the Philadelphia Flag Day Association. Clarissa Claypool carried on her mother's business after she died, and it is possible she gave Betsy Ross's famous star pattern to Samuel Wetherill. In my version of Betsy Ross's story, I favored the accounts of her life in the book The Truth About the Betsy Ross Story by Robert Morris. So that's by the author. And then finally, there is a little picture here of how to do her star. And this is in the book itself. So I just, put a little picture here, folding the paper in half, and it shows you all the folds again. But I do think it's a little bit confusing, and you can pause your YouTube video now and you can look at that and try to figure it out. If you're not interested in that, all the test information is here for your AR test, so you can feel free to just pause this video, obviously, and just jump right into the test. But if you're interested to see a little bit more, I have a very short video for you, so I'm going to play that now. And this is just a 1.5-minute video called How to Cut a Perfect Star from Paper with Just One Cut. It is a little bit tricky. You have to know the details of how to do it, but I still want to show you that it's possible to just fold, 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 and with only one cut, you can get a pretty perfect 5-point star, which is what Betsy Ross did. So I'm going to show you that video now.
Hi, it's Amanda from Impress Your Kids, and I have got a really fun activity for us today. This is how to cut a star out of a piece of paper with only one cut. Are you ready? Fold your paper in half, crease it right there, and then from your middle point, you want to take this top left corner and bring it down till it's in the middle of this section. So that'll be about right here. Crease that. Now take your new corner that's in the middle and fold it straight back onto this edge. So you're making a new little triangle here. Now you've got this previously untouched area, and you want to just fold it straight on top all the way over. Doesn't look like anything yet, but it will. Now, just fold this back one time, and you've got, it kind of looks like an upside down ice cream cone. Not too bad. Take your scissors. I'm using my kitchen scissors because I can't find any other ones around here. And start about where your new fold is, just a little bit above that, and you're just going to cut. It's kind of thick. You're just going to cut, cut right up, and you are never going to believe this. The most perfect and beautiful star you have ever seen. Is that the easiest thing? And of course, now you've got a big placemat with a star in it too, in case you want to do something with that. So, how awesome was that? Again, this is Amanda at ImpressYourKids.com.
So anyway, I thought you guys would like to see that. There is another video that was much more specific. I'm going to pause it here. It's called Fold Cut a 5-Pointed Star, and it looks like this. He shows you the exact measurements if you guys are feeling like doing that. I could probably put a link of this on Google Classroom if you guys are interested in doing an art project. But he does it with specific math measurements, and it comes out just this beautiful. So it's kind of fun to do. And plus he uses math terms, which I think is a really cool lesson. So I'll put a little link on there, but you guys can obviously look this one up again here by Amanda White, or this one here, and do it on your own if you don't want to use any of the other links. Anyways, enjoy. I hope you guys are able to pass your test. Again, that information is here if you want to pause your screen. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. I hope you enjoyed the story. Bye.